So in the online community, when people are searching for answers to difficult questions or answers to questions that everybody has, right? It doesn't matter what language you speak and where you live. There's one question, which is, why would they lie or hide the true shape of the world? When in actual fact, they're not lying, because they're showing both things. They're showing both the truth and the lies parallel at the same time. And it's up to you what you want to make of it. But they're showing the same all over again, everywhere, in movies and cinema and music and songs and cartoons and books and everything else. But all past civilizations of the world, all of them were familiar with the solid dome of the sky, the dome that covers the earth, that has no curvature. And I repeat, all civilizations, each one of them, if you have time to research and if you're interested. And now, in today's day and age, in education, they want you to believe that all these, what the ancient civilizations were saying, that everything is myth and legend. And they mock the ancient Egyptians when it comes to their cosmology, but then they stand in awesomeness of their building techniques and advanced mathematics and the pyramids. And of course, then they combine that with other lies like UFOs from other planet, with like ball planets in the sky or in the universe, with 3D CGI and all that stuff. But the question is, how did ancient people come to know about the solid sky dome? One version is that in ancient times, these advanced civilizations, they crossed Antarctica because they had technology, and they discovered the dome and the frontier and the border. Or maybe back then Antarctica had a warmer climate and people lived near the dome on the continent, because there is evidence on the ancient maps that they show Antarctica coastline ice free. At least maybe there wasn't an ice wall in the first place, or maybe the ice wall was like way back and Antarctica was free of ice. So any advanced information seeker or truth seeker knows that what modern society calls myths and legends, that's actual history. It's actual ancient history, and not so ancient. When I say ancient, I'm saying several centuries or maybe a couple of thousand years ago. But 95% or more, or even 99% of these accurate ancient records, they were either stolen, hidden, or burned. Obviously, you know by whom. And all of we are left with is the orally transmitted records. So oral traditions and the oral lore and the folklore, which were distorted, by the way, during the passing of the ages, also intentionally by you-know-who, just so that we think that everything is just an invention or a lie. Now, when we look at the creation stories, because every single civilization has creation stories, like the legend of Zeus in ancient Greeks, Odin in the Nordics, or the Maya civilizations and myths, and many others. I'm just giving the examples of what everybody knows because they're so popular culture. But all these descriptions of they're showing devastating celestial events, which were later transformed into mythology and legends, and the celestial bodies were given names and human-like characters because it was like made into poetry and stories for kids. Now, this is the way that everything was hidden in plain sight. The best way to hide something is to hide it in plain sight. We just have to add the flat earth stuff and all the knowledge we have today, thanks to technology and thanks to what they're allowing us to know, to these myths, and then everything fits like a glove and everything makes sense, and the story will once again become what it was in the ancient times. Let's see some facts. For example, Uranus or Uranus, he was the primal god, so the first god of the sky, and the Greeks actually imagined the sky as a solid dome decorated with stars, with the edges descending to rest upon the outermost limits of the flat earth with no curvature. And Uranus or Uranus was the literal sky, and the consort of Uranus was Gaia, and Gaia is the earth, so Uranus and Gaia. In Egyptian mythology, Nut was the goddess of the sky, and her body made a protective layer, just like a dome, over the earth, and as the sky goddess, Nut was shown arching over Geb, and Geb is the earth god. So Nut and Geb, or Uranus and Gaia. And this is just Greek and Egyptian. There are so many others, but we don't have time in this video. So the creation story is the earliest record that any civilization has, and the sky dome is always mentioned hand in hand with the creation. Then we have the destructive and cataclysmic events that happened just a few thousand years ago, even centuries ago, because these cataclysmic events are always like in history. You can see them like 100 or 200 years, there's cataclysmic events, especially in the last resets. But our friends in the education and in the like what we study every day, they're telling us that these cataclysmic events, they all happened 65 million years ago, with the dinosaurs and all that stuff. Now, of course, they're saying some truths, but when they're saying 65 million years ago, that's just so lame. So when we look at, for example, high altitude balloons, right? You have high altitude balloons, you have the footage, you can clearly see that the sun in the footage does not cast the light or its light on the dome upwards. It's always casting the light downwards. So the light of the sun comes downwards, just like a spotlight on the surface with no curvature of the earth. There's no spotlight above. So our ancestors, they knew about the dome from the beginning of the civilization, and they somehow saw the dome as well. How is that possible? The answer to this question is that they actually told us that they've seen it, because they describe all these cataclysmic events. So they actually told us in their stories or history, which afterwards we consider legends or mythology because of our intellect. But they told us that these pieces of solid sky dome, they came down from the sky and they caused great destruction on the surface of the world. How did they see this? Well, it was illuminated during these events. You had illumination in the sky caused by the intrusion of other celestial bodies, celestial body that has its own light, but which had and still has another purpose. So this foreign body, or the foreign bodies that came to the dome, because the job of these, or the purpose of these bodies, is not to sustain life on Earth, but it's actually to destroy it. So it has more like a darker function. There's people who say, and there's knowledge out there that says that above the dome, besides water, there could be magma, which is a mixture of molten or semi-molten rock, just like we have underneath the Earth. And we have it underneath and on the surface as well, above the sky. So it seems that I've seen some couple of videos on YouTube which were deleted, so unfortunately I'm not sure if that information is available anywhere else. But these rock balls, which we could understand as meteorites, but not in the sense as they show us in movies or video games with the aliens and other stuff. It's a different type of, like, they could be meteorites, but they're coming from above the dome, and this is what causes the cataclysms. And also these meteorites, or these rock balls, they would fall in the floodwaters, because we had floods all the time, right? So let's see what's the closest event we can relate to. The closest event to our history is the Tunguska event. The Tunguska event in Siberia and Russia, which was, before that, it was Tartaria on the maps. You will find the exact phenomenon, only to a smaller scale. Tunguska was way smaller. So that day, on the 30th of June 1908 in Siberia, same event. They say was an asteroid or comet, traditionally speaking, but I'm gonna read a couple of testimonies from local Russians from Siberia, Tunguska, and one of them goes like this: I suddenly saw that directly to the north, over Onkol Tunguska Road, the sky split in two and fire appeared high and wide over the forest. The split in the sky grew larger and the entire northern side was covered with fire, and at that moment I became so hot that I couldn't hear it, as if my shirt was on fire. From the northern side, where the fire was, came strong heat. I wanted to tear off my shirt and throw it down, but then the sky shut closed and a strong trumpet sounded, and I was thrown a few meters. Absolutely fascinating. The trumpets also happened to appear in the Apocalypse, in these books which were manipulated. So in another testimony says, in the North Karelinsky village, the peasants saw to the northwest, rather high above the horizon, some strangely bright, impossible to look at, blush white heavenly body, which for 10 minutes moved downwards, and the body appeared as a pipe, some of them said, which translates to cylinder shape. Then the last one, and if you like it, I'm going to continue in the next video, says, then I saw a wonder. Trees were falling, the branches were on fire. It became mighty bright. How can I say this? As if there was a second sun. My eyes were hurting and I even closed them. It was like what we Russians call lightning, and immediately there was a loud thunderclap. This was the second thunder, and the morning was sunny, and there were no clouds, and our sun was shining brightly as usual. And suddenly then came a second a second one. So if you enjoyed this video, I'm not going to make it too long because it's not my intention to make it dense or too complicated, but if you like it, give me a thumbs up and a few motivational comments, and I'll make a second part and even a third part, because it's absolutely fascinating information regarding for those who actually want to learn more stuff and don't have access to it. So I'll see you guys in the next video. In these legends are the sun, moon, and the stars and the planets, and the destroyer. And also in the Bible, I know people are going to hate me for this, but hey, this is not the channel for religious people. So the Bible, in the story of the Bible, Jesus is the sun and his father is the destroyer, pretty much. So yeah, unless of course you, obviously it's not my fault if people, this is not to oblige people, it's just a video. But if you check the video properly and you understand, once you have the pieces of the puzzle, like I said, everything makes sense. So let's continue the journey to understand everything about the dome that covers this experiment. So the cataclysmic events, which are recorded in all the history resources and everything, all the legends and myths and the civilizations, they're all covered in the work of good researchers. There's two researchers who did a very good job. One of them is Immanuel Velikovsky, and the other one is Graham Hancock. Suggesting these two researchers because in their books they indicate what are the original resources or sources of the information used to write the book. They indicate ancient papyrus and all kinds of sources like the Ipuwer papyrus, and all the eyewitnesses, the accounts that escaped the Vatican and the burning stuff. It's amazing how accurate they are in how everything falls in together, fits together when you add the flat earth. So if you don't add the flat earth, then everything doesn't make any sense. But if you add the non-curvature earth, then everything makes sense with the destruction events, the stories, the myths, the legends, even the Bible. The geological evidences, they're young as between 3,600 and 5,000 years. So there's nothing more older than that, unless, I mean, we don't know anything older than that. And the flat earth, of course. So I want to emphasize that the cataclysmic events that caused the reset of the world, described in the ancient records and are, the source of all religions and myths, is there as well, because these cataclysms are the source of all religions and myths in all civilizations. And these events were recorded by all the survivors from the entire earth after the cataclysms, because there were survivors in the world. So in Norse mythology, in the Nordic mythology, the foreign body or the celestial destroyer that comes to the dome is called Surtur. In early Greek legends, it's called Cronus, and in the Bible, it's called God or Yahweh, or whatever you want to say. In the Quran, it's Allah, and Hinduism, it's Shiva, etc., etc. So for each human being, depending on what they like, they have their version. Of course, they make humanity fear it or venerate it or to say prayers to it. That's sickening, of course, because they want to make sure that when it's going to appear again, everybody will be terrified and frozen with terror. My recommendation to you to understand all of this is to look at the Milky Way. Question is, what do you see when you look at the Milky Way? And what does it look like to you personally? If you can't see it on the sky because you have light pollution, then you can see it in the picture I have on the screen. My question for you is, when you look at the Milky Way, is it like a galaxy million of miles away, or light years away, whatever you call it, or is it something else? So if you look at the videos and the pictures, you first have to empty your head from all the indoctrination and all the stuff that you've been indoctrinated with during your life, and look at the picture very deeply, thinking about everything we know so far about the non-curvature Earth and what we see in the real world and the dome. And unfortunately for you and me, the Milky Way is exactly what it looks like. It's a crack, it's a crack or fissure in the vault of the sky, and the celestial destroyer, which is called Marduk or Tiamat or God or Allah or Typhon, depending on the civilization, is situated above the so-called Milky Way galactic bulge, as they call it in science. And the light we see at the center of the Milky Way is from this device called the destroyer, or depending on what culture you come from. And it seemed that also a new sun comes out from the place during the so-called cosmic birth, which scientists speak about all the time. And also huge torrents of water fall from the sky, so the deluge, or the waters from above that already created this civilization. If you read Genesis chapter 1 verse 6 to 8, it says there that God, the supposed God, let there be a firmament in the midst of the waters, divide the waters from above, from below, and the firmament appeared and divided the waters. So pretty much it states clearly the creation and everything else, and the destruction as well. Psalms 11 with 4, chapter 11 verse 4, states clearly that someone is observing all of the earth, and the eyes of that someone is examining everything. So the genetic experiment with technology. And this device or mechanism called the destroyer enters the dome opening. The dome opening is also called the dark rift of the Milky Way. That's why we have all the stuff that they speak about in science with dark holes and all that stuff. But they obviously they distort, they use their knowledge to say lots of lies. But anyway, so this destroyer destroys Earth, and a part of it falls on the Earth, and after that the lid of this geomechanical cage, which we call the dome, is closed. And also, no wonder the Mayans from America, they were obsessed with the dark rift because they knew what sits behind the dark rift. So the dark rift has also many Mayan mythic identities. It's the Black Road, according to the Mayans, and also the road to the underworld, a crevice in the branches of the cosmic tree, which is the Milky Way, and the mouth of the cosmic monster that looks like a jaguar or a snake with some tree-like features, right? So the Mayans, they try to warn everybody, of course, and they also told us that the earth is flat, there's no curvature. They knew that all the time, as all the rest of civilizations. Let's go to the Nordics a bit. The Bifrost, which is the rainbow, was the bridge leading from Earth, which is called Midgard, to Asgard, which is the home of the gods. That's pretty obvious, but only the gods could cross the bridge, which was guarded by the god Heimdall, and the bridge has also been associated in the Nordic mythology with the Milky Way. It was believed that a great battle between good and evil would end in the destruction of the gods. And the gods pretty much are the sun, the moon, the stars, and the planets, and all that stuff we see on the sky. And during the battle, the Bifrost shattered due to the weight of the monsters. And in the story, if you read the story, all the gods and everything on earth perished under the sea, so with water, and earth rose from the waters, and life began again in a new cycle. So Tiamat is also the chaos. Tiamat in the Mesopotamian religion with the Anunnaki, Tiamat is the chaos monster, so it's a different name for the same device that comes to the dome. Slicing Tiamat in half, and he made from her ribs the vault of heaven and earth. Her weeping eyes became the source of the Tigris and the Euphrates, and her tail became the Milky Way. That's the story of the Mesopotamian religion. And then we also have the Aboriginal people, the Kaurna, in Adelaide Plains in South Australia. They see the band of the Milky Way as a river in the sky world, and in addition, the dark patches are where a dangerous creature known as the Yura lives. So different story, but same story really, with different wording. Also, there's this speaking about the prophecy that says that when this device enters, it moves over the earth at the speed of the Milky Way, and also for 6 days it's the same speed that the sun has along the ecliptic, supposed to be the movement of the sun, and a fiery dragon will cross the sky 6 times before the earth shall die. And it's very interesting, this number 6, because if you check the Bible, it says God created the world in 6 days. If I rephrase that, it could also mean that God destroyed the world in 6 days. So it's just a different way of recreating the same event, depending on if you want to be good or bad with it. Oh, and of course, the heavens receded like a scroll being rolled up. You also see that in the biblical text. So the heavens scrolling, which like they can open and close like a scroll. So pretty much the effect of the dome cage. The book of Revelation is really nothing more than just a description of the destruction that this device makes when it enters our world, or this world. And Oh, of course, those guys who wrote the Bible, you know who they are. They actually had all the records and they just wrote as they pleased. And one must be really careful when you read the ancient myths and legends and stories, including the Bible, because the good deity is often the same as the bad deity. So you need to navigate through all the lies to make sure that, but it's very easy to understand once you have all the pieces of the puzzle. If you read Revelation chapter 14, verses 14 to 16, so Revelation 14 to 16, scary stuff there in Revelation. These guys up there, they wait until the earth has many souls on it, or energy levels, what you want to call it, people and animals, and then this device is activated. And if you want to understand this properly with more graphics and visuals, watch the movie Jupiter Ascending. It was created by the same guys as the Matrix trilogy. If you watch the official trailer, number 3, of Jupiter Ascending, everything makes sense. Of course, you have to navigate to the lies as well, but that's the reason why Hollywood makes these movies, and that's the reason why the creators of the Matrix trilogy made Jupiter Ascending. So, of course, it's a good way of camouflaging everything with like proper marketing and Hollywood stuff, but it's there. They actually tell you the truth in your face and in my face as well. So the Milky Way is the Bifrost, and the dome sky is the Yggdrasil in the Nordic mythology. In the Vedic tradition, it's Mount Meru, which is hidden everywhere, by the way. And in all the mythologies you see, it doesn't matter like if you speak a different language, you have a mythology that speaks about that. All the gods that do the battles in these legends are the sun, moon, and the stars and the planets, and the destroyer that comes to the rift, the dark rift to the Milky Way. And also in the Bible, I know people are going to hate me for this, but hey, this is not the channel for religious people. So the Bible, in the story of the Bible, Jesus is the son and his father is the destroyer, pretty much. So yeah, unless of course obviously it's not my fault if people, this is not to oblige people, it's just a video. But if you check the video properly and you understand, once you have the pieces of the puzzle, like I said, everything makes sense. Hopefully you enjoyed this, and I'll see you in part 7 in the next video with more interesting stuff as usual. And thank you for your like and your support, and let's continue, if we are allowed, to keep on publishing stuff. See you next time.